student object when ID value is passed. What is ID value? ID is a student ID. Student details. Suppose when I know the roll number 10. So once I know 10, because that roll number will be there only for one student. Two students cannot get same roll number, right? So only one student will get that roll number. So if I pass roll number, ID is like your roll number, primary key. Then what you'll get? You'll get like for roll number 10, the student first name is Ramesh, last name is Kumar, his email is so, his address is so, his phone number is so. So like that, all that will get the details. Okay. So now we are going to do that. So what I'll do is now I'll say prepared statement is equal to, I'll just say null. What I'll do is I'll also say right. So here I'll say, let me put this same connection here. Whatever I put here, I'll copy these two. Only thing is, in prepared statement, instead of insert into student values, I'll have a select query. Select star from student where ID is equal to question mark. Right? If I open the database, we'll see. As I told you, I'm using MySQL 5. So what I'll do, show tables. Okay. So use student DB. This is the database. In this table, I'll use select star from student. Okay, these are the student records. Okay, these are the student records. So in that, if I pass one ID value, I'll get only one record. Okay, let me do that. Now what I do is I say pstmt dot set int of the first question mark. Only I have only one parameter. I'll pass this ID value. Next, that's all. And what I do is I execute this query because I have only one value to pass. Only one value. This first one indicates the question mark, the first question mark. Okay. Whatever the one I pass, it is a first question mark. Now, what I do, pstmt dot execute query. Right. I execute this query. For insert statements, what I have to do, insert, I'll give execute update. Okay, execute update. But for select statements, I'll give execute query, and this will be in result set. Okay, so what I'll do is here, result set. I'll just say result set. I'll pass here, I'll assign here. Why I'm declaring outside try block? Because I have to close this. I have to close this outside try block. That's why. So once I get this, so what I do here? So I'll also create one student object here. Now I'm getting only one record. I'm getting only one record. If you see here in my last diagram, you see one record, one row in the database is mapped to one student object. Okay, the entire row is mapped to one student Java object. Okay, the entire row is mapped to one student object. So what I'll do now, I'll create one student object here. And here I'll say student dot set student ID. Set student ID, and from the result set, I'll say result set dot get int of, what are the column name, this column name, okay? So result set of get of int of id is this one. So id. Next, student dot set the first name of result set dot get string of this first underscore name. This first underscore name. Next, student dot set last name of result set of last underscore name. Next, student dot set email of result set dot get string of email. Okay, that's all. So I'll say catch exception x dot print stack trace. Finally, I'll close this if connection not equals null. First I'll close a result set. First I'll close a prepared state. First I'll close a result set if result set not equals null. Close. Next, if prepared statement not equals null. Dot close. Next, if connection not equals null. Dot close. So it is better always to close in the finally block. Okay. Okay. And here I'm returning student. Sorry, small letter. So this is how the this. Now let me now create a service class and create now public student get student of id. Okay, right? Then what I'll do, I'll say student DAO just then I'll say return student DAO dot get student by ID of ID. Okay. See, what I'm planning to do is instead of creating object each and every, I will write like this. What I'll do is I'll write a constructor. And here I'll create a student DAO object. And here I'll say private student DAO. I'm assigning this. Then I'll say this dot student DAO equal to student DAO. Okay, I can remove this part. Okay, we can make simple. Okay, So I'm assigning like this, and then we can know. And from app.java, okay, see here you got an thing. So what I do here, I'll say student DAO is equal to new student DAO. And here I pass this constructor. Now it should be fine, right? Now I'll explain you, okay? On complete flow, I'll explain. Now this is for add student. I want to get the student. I want to pass some ID value. Let me pass 103. I'll get this the student ID, I mean the student details. So what I'll do is student data is equal to service dot get the student by ID. I'll pass this 103. If I pass ID 103, I should get that student data related first name, student data dot get the first name, student data dot get the last name, dot get okay email. All this I'll get. Let me run this program. I think this ID is already added. If I run this program, I'll get a error because this 355 is a primary key. This 355 is already added, so it will get error. So what I'll do is I'll comment out this code. I will I will only just run. Okay, I'll comment out till this part. Now let me run this program. Run as Java. Okay. Okay. Why this error is? Let me remove this MOCKITO test. Refresh. I commented on this code, right? No. I'll just update this project again. So go to Java build path. Remove this, add library, JRE system library, JDK, Java compiler, 1.8, apply and close. I will just run this program. Okay, null. Okay. I did a mistake here, right? So here you have to have result set dot next. Right? Now I will get this. Run as Java. See, if I pass 103 primary key, so the first name is Raj Kumar, raj.kumar@test. So let us see the working of this program. Next is then. So let me take this program now. Okay. Then let me take this program. Okay, this method. Right. Okay. Now, what I'm doing now, as you know, this is my application. Now here, I'm creating a student DAO object, this object. And then I'm creating student service. So student service is taking this constructor. So this is a parameterized constructor. In this constructor, it will take this object. So when I call this student service constructor, it is going to call this one. And in that, it is going to pass this object. So this object is going to pass here. Okay. Now, when I say service.getStudent by ID, when I say service.getStudent by ID, now this method is called. And I pass 103 and I pass ID value 103. Then internally, that is calling the DAO class. Okay, DAO class. So student DAO means this class. So it will call this method. Here, what is ID value it is taking? 103. Now the same ID value will be here. And it will go here. ID value is 103. Now we are opening the prepared statement result set student. Okay. Now this is your database, user ID, password, all that. And this is your query. Select student from where ID equal to. In that I'm passing only one value here. So that's why I give only one ID value passed. And I execute the query. So when I execute this query, what will happen now? When I execute the query, this record. Now let me take this record will get executed. This record only will be selected, right? So this is your, I'll take this entire thing. Okay, this entire table. Now, when I pass 103, this is the query. This is the record. Now this record, so our results are that next means always result set will be pointing to your header. Okay, so result set dot next means you will get only one record. So that means one record will be coming here. This entire record will be coming here. Now, this entire record, now I need to set in a student object. In a student object. So all these values I need to set in that student object. What are the values? Student ID, first name, last name, next email. These are the property values. So when I say set to student ID, result set dot get int of ID. So this value 103 will be coming. So when I say result set get string of first name, this column name. So this column name should match here. This column name should match here. This column name should match here. So when I say get string of ID, ID should be 103. First name will be Raj. Last name will be Kumar. And email will be this Raj.Kumar@. Okay, whatever this email. Now that I am setting in the student object using the setter methods. And then I'm returning the student object. So this method is returning the student object. And these are, you need to close all this. You need to close the connection object. You need to close the result set object. You need to close prepare statement in the finally block. Why means in final block? Suppose in case you get exception in the try block. Suppose you get an exception here. I'm just telling. Suppose you get an exception here. So your connection is opened. Your result set. Your connection is opened. Your prepare statement is open. Okay, both are open. So if you get an exception here, it will go to catch block. And then even if you get an exception, it will execute the finally block. And it will close all this. Suppose if you don't get any exception, it will execute all this code. It will not go to the catch block. It will go to the final block. So the flow will be like this. So if no exception, so try block executes, then finally block. If exception, then suppose if exception in try block, then from try block it will go to catch block. So it will skip the remaining lines in the try block. And then it will go to final. Suppose you are getting an exception here. Suppose you are getting an exception in this line. So immediately the flow will go to catch block. So this remaining part of the code will not get executed. Suppose you got try block at the 12th line. At 12th line, you got an exception. So, and your try block is having 16 lines of code. That means from 13 to 16 lines, that code will not get executed. It will go to catch block. Okay. And once it goes to catch block, then it will go to finally block, and in final block, it will close all these connections. Suppose if exceptions are not coming, so it will execute all this block. It will not go to catch block, directly it will go to finally block. So that is the reason you should handle all these connection, close everything in this finally block. Okay. Okay. This all you'll be knowing in advanced Java. Okay. Since you're all full stack Java students. Okay. Just I'm explaining. Okay. So if I want to go in depth, it will take. I have to skip this DevSecOps tools. Okay. So that is the reason I'm not going in depth, but I'm explaining you to make you understand. Okay. Okay then. So finally, now this is done, and I'm returning student object. And what is you got Raj Kumar and email is this one. So you got that printed. So Raj Kumar and email is this one, whatever the data is, right? Now we have completed we have completed get student by ID. Now we'll complete get all students also. Okay, let us complete get all students also. So let me now return public. Get all students will give an array list. So get all students. Okay. So what I will do is now instead of getting one student, I'll get all the students. Okay. So why list I'm using? Because list is a collection. It will store multiple student objects. Okay. It will store multiple student objects. Okay. Now let me now copy paste this entire thing. Only one addition we have to do. Just remove this. Okay. And I will just remove this. Just I'm putting select star from student. Okay, all the tape, all the records. And here what I'll do is I'll put in a while loop this one. Okay, I'm creating a student object for each row. Students dot add of student. So list of students is equal to new array list. And then I'll return students. That's all. That is the only change we are doing. Now you see, this is my method. I'll be just explaining you this. That's all. After that, we'll write the MOCKITO test. Okay. So this is the.
डिलीट करना क्यों है तेरे को? डिलीट को मीन से करना चाहिए. क्यों करना चाह रहा है मीन से?
So this is the student table now. So this is my table.
लैपटॉप में डाउनलोड करेंगे इसीलिए.
So this is my table. Okay, so when I query this table, select star from student, you'll get all the records. Because it is not based on the primary key, you'll get all the records. Now when I execute, when I execute the query, you'll get all these records. You'll get all these records. Okay. After executing the query only, you'll get all these records. So now while means why? Because you have to iterate each and every record. Okay. You have to iterate each and every record. So while loop. So first it will go to the first record. Now this record. Now this record. Now this first record. So this will be associated with one student object. So that's why I'm creating one student object here. New student object. Now I'll be setting all these property values. That is all these values in this object. ID and all that. Now while means it will go to the next iteration. Next it will go to the second row. It will go to the second row. Okay, it will go to the second row. In second row, again a new student object is created. A new student object. Now all these values will be set here. Again it will go to the third row. New student object will be created. Again it will go to the fourth row. New student object is created. Again it will go to the fourth row. This object is created. So till this while loop is completed. And if you remember, if you see in this code, what we are doing, we are adding this each student object to a list. Before this while loop gets completed, this object is added to a list. So where I'm creating the list here outside the block. So here I'm creating a list. In this list, so in the first object will be added to the list, first element. Next, second object is added to the next list. Third object is added to the list. Fourth object is added to the list. See, at the end of the while loop, we are adding that to list. So that in the next iteration, a new student object is created. These values are set and they are added to the list. Now this is a list of students. This is a list of student objects, and we are returning that list actually. So we are returning that list. Okay. All right then. Now everyone understood this flow? Complete flow of all these methods. The business method shall we go for writing unit test cases? Everyone understood? Very good. Let me know. Let me now write. You will learn definitely in advanced Java, okay? Whatever I explained, okay? Because if I keep on explaining this, it will be Java course. Okay, anyway, you are full stack Java students. Okay, so you will understand definitely this. Okay, that's why I went very slowly here. Okay, public class, now student test. I'm writing now the test class. Where I'll be writing this test class? Here in the source test Java. These are all your business classes. Now I'm going to write the test class here. Okay, student test. And now what I'm going to do is, now you see, just follow carefully.
अरे यार तू देख अभी फोड़ देंगे जल्दी खोल दे
So now,
अरे यार तेरा क्या
if you go to our earlier MOCKITO examples,
तू पढ़ता कब है रिकॉर्डिंग कर लेता है
here actually I have what I told. I have told we can create a mock object like this, right? Here we told. So we are creating a mock object like this. So there is another way also where we can create a mock object. Okay. Okay. Now, just to see. Currently, if you see our flow is a real-time flow. In most of your real-time projects, we are going to use this type of flow. What is that flow? We have a student service. We have a student DAO. We have a student DAO and we have a database. And student DAO is going to interact with the database. And student service is going to call student DAO. And we have an application app. Okay, that is going to call student service. So this is what in any real-time project you go, this is the basic structure. You'll have a service class, you'll have a DAO class, and it will connect to database. And here you'll have a JDBC code to connect to the database. So this is the flow we have seen till now, and we have written all the three operations like get student by ID, get all students, and add student. We have seen a two select statements and one insert statement. Right. Now we are going to write a test code for this. We are going to write a test code. So what is the test code? What are the methods here we have? Add student. What is the testing? We need to test whether these methods are working properly or not. Add student, get student by ID. Next, get all students only, right? Yeah, get all students. So corresponding add student will call get add student method. Next, corresponding get student by ID will call get student by ID method. Okay, we have seen all this, right? We have seen all this, right? Now we are going to write test code to test each of these methods. We are going to write test code to test each of these methods in the service class and also in the DAO class. Okay. First of all, if we test in the service class, that will call DAO class methods, right? Then if this is working, means this is also working. See, logical you think. Service class methods are calling DAO class methods. Right? If service class methods are working means that means DAO class is working. DAO class methods are working. because the result of DO class method only is the service class result, right? So DO class methods are working. Okay. Simple logic, right? Say if A is calling B, okay, and B is giving some result to A, and if A is working means, B is also working, right? Right. That means if we call the service class methods in our test code, that is enough, right? If we test these service class methods, that is enough. We don't need to test this because add student anyhow internal is calling this. This internal is calling get student by ID. And get all students is calling get all students method. Right? So these methods are calling these individual methods. So if we test these methods, that is enough. But to test these methods in our test code, what we should have? We should have an object of this, right? In the test code, I mean, first we'll define the expected input. Okay, we'll define the input. We'll define the input. Next, we'll define the expected output. Okay, first I want to test this method. First, I want to test add student method. So first to test add student method, what I need to do? So okay, what is the object to test add student method? Okay, of service class. So what is the first step? Define input to be passed input. Okay, second, define expected output. Right? Third one, call the method and get actual output. Right? This is what, right? Our basic test scenarios. Fourth one, compare expected and actual output. And actual output. This is the basic okay, this is the basic steps in any, right? Now, if you see this, this is the way trick lies. The third point. Call the method and get the actual output. To call this method, what we should have the object of this, right? Suppose I'm testing add student method of service class means I should have the object of this. So for this only, we have to be careful. We have to plan properly. So how we'll do this? Call the method and get the actual output. We'll create the first step. We'll create the student service object. We'll create the student service object. Okay, we'll create the student service object. And then from the object, we will call the add method or add student. From the method, we'll call the add student by passing the input, by passing the input to the method. And then we'll get the output of the method. Okay. All right, fine. Everything is fine. Now, second point you see, create the, okay, first point you see, create the student service object. To create the student service object, what we have to do? How we'll create in Java? Say we have student service. So I'll say like this, right? So student service. Student service equal to new student service. So that's what we are going to. Right? This is what we are going to define. But if you see our real program, This is our constructor. So this is our student service constructor. If I do like this, it will not work. Now, if I do like this will not work. You'll get a compiler because this is a default constructor. So this is a default constructor which doesn't take any parameter, but our student service class takes student DAO as an object. So if you call directly like this, this will not work. You'll get a compiler error because this is a default constructor. So the student service is taking student DAO object. Student DAO object. That means I should do like this. I should do like this. First, I will create like this, and then I'll pass like this. In my app.java, how I did, in my test code also, I have to do like this. Okay. In my test code also, I have to do like this. So now this will call this constructor and create the object. Now here only we have to be very careful. Here we are creating the real object of student DAO. This is a real object, right? I told you, this is, if you create the real object, this JDBC code will get executed and that will connect to the database. And that is a risk. Whenever you are doing testing, you should not create the real object of the code where the database logic is there. Here, what we are doing here, we are creating the real object. Here, we are creating the real object and passing that to the student service. And this is also real object. For service, not an issue. Service, what it is doing, service is not, see, if you see these two diagrams, service is not connecting to the database. Your service is not connecting to the database. Your service is connecting to the DAO. Your DAO is connecting to the database. So if you create a real object of this, so from the real object, we can call these methods. And if you call these methods, that methods will connect to the database. And there is a possibility of your test data might corrupt this database. Okay. So what we can do is, what we have to do is, here in this scenario, while you write the test code, you should not do like this. So what you have to do is, you have to create mock object of student DAO. You have to create a mock object of student DAO. Okay, you see. You create a mock object of student DAO and then create real object of student service. So student service can be real object. No harm in that. Okay. Student service can be real object because student service is not connected to the database directly. So create real object of student service and by passing, because to create the real object of student service, that constructor, student service constructor is expecting student DAO object by passing by passing student DAO mock object. So this is the way you have to write the unit test case in your real-time scenarios. Okay. Always wherever your DB logic is there, create mock object. Okay. For the other classes, you can create real objects. You can go ahead and create real objects. That doesn't matter. It will not impact anything because if you see this diagram, if you see this design, student service is not connected to database. So no harm here. But this is the where loophole, danger situation. So that's why here you have to create a mock object. Okay. And here you can create the real object. Okay. And here you can create real object. And I'll tell you how this will work actually. Now you know how to create the mock object for this and how to create real object. What is the way to create a mock object? We have seen in our last examples. What is the way we have created in our last examples? This is the way, right? MOCKITO.mock. Now, instead of creating like this, now we go in advanced way. Okay, this is the old style of creating. Now, what we will do is we'll use annotations. So, what we'll do in annotations is go here. Now, to create a mock, which is a mock object now we need to create? Student DAO, right? So for that, just use annotation mock, and then you say student DAO. Okay, annotation mock is the student annotation mock. This is the new way of creating student DAO object. I mean, new way of creating the mock object. Instead of creating like this mockito.mock, this is the old way of creating. So we will create in this way, mock or the mock annotation. Okay. Now this mock object has to be passed there. If you see in our scenario, this mock object, student DAO mock object has to be passed to student service object. That is student service object. Student service object will take this mock object, right? So you have a service, you have a DAO object, which is mock object, not a real object. Now this object will get injected into the real object of service. And for that your MOCKITO also provides an annotation, an easy annotation. So that means this object is injected to this. We call this as an inject. Inject means passing. Inject means passing. Injection will say. Injection means passing something to your body. So inject. So DAO object is passed to service object. So for that we use an annotation called here inject mocks. Okay, inject mocks, where we need to inject this mock object to student service. Student service. So inject mocks means, so this mock object, okay, this mock object will be injected to student service. That's what, right? Student service will take that mock object. So here this mock will create mock object of student DAO, and inject mocks will inject mock object to student service object. Okay, that's all. So you have to remember these two. Okay, and why we are creating only for DAO? Because this is the where our DB logic is there. So that's why here we should have mock. So this mock will be passed to student service. Now we need to initialize these objects. So for that, you remember in our unit test code, I told one method before each. So before each test method will run. So let me write here public void setup. And here I'll say MOCKITO annotations dot init mocks of this. So when I say like this, so what it will do is this will initialize the mock object and inject mock object. Okay, and inject mock. Or we can say like this will initialize the objects declared with. So if you don't use this MOCKITO annotations, these two annotations will not work. Okay, you have to initialize this. Declared with mock and inject mocks. That's all. So this is the basic step you have to do. Now we need to write the test method. So let us write the first test method. Okay, first let us write the test method. So can we now write a test method for this add student? So let us write the test method for this add student. This is the method we are going to touch, right? So what I'll do is public void test add student. test add student. Okay, this is a test method we are going to do. Okay, so this is the latest way of creating. Okay, mock. Okay, instead of creating old way, this is the old way of creating. So this is the old way of creating. Instead of that, we use latest way like this. Okay, now test. Now we want to test this method. So first, what we'll do? So right, what is the first step we have to do? When I call add student method, what is the return value I should get? Int value. That means how many records? That means if I pass one student object, I should get one. That means one record has been inserted, right? One record. If I get 0, that means there is some failure. There is a failure actually. Okay, see, if you see this method, add student method, see, execute update is returning records added. That means if this query is executed successfully, you'll get one record. Suppose if there's an exception in this query, then you'll get records added as 0. That means 0 records got added. Okay. Now, what is my expected count? First I'll define input. Let me define input. So what is my input? I'll define student is equal to new student. I have to pass the input, right? I have to pass the student object. Student dot, I'll use some test data, set first name, something like dummy. I'll use some dummy names because it's a test data. Okay, I don't care about the real names. And I'm safe that I'm using MOCKITO. That's why it will go for a dummy DO object. It will not go to the real database object. So that's why I'll pass some test data. Then I'll say student dot set ID. I'll give some dummy ID. Student dot set last name. I'll give some set email. Student dot set email. I'll use some dummy email ID. Okay, something like dummy email ID. Okay, now define input. Next, what I have to do? I know that if I pass this input to the add student method, I should get the expected count as one record got inserted. So I'll define the expected output. What I'll say, int expected count or int expected records inserted. So this is equal to 1. Now, what I have to do now? Now I have to define the mock behavior. For which one I have to define the mock behavior? Just listen this carefully. Now, because we are not calling the actual DAO logic. We are not calling. So when I create mock object, this real logic will not get executed. I have to define the behavior for this method in the DAO class. That means, so for that behavior, what I'll do student DAO dot add student of, I pass student dot then return of 1. This is the behavior. Okay. Now what I do now I call student service. You see, just see student service. I'll get the actual output. Student service dot add student of student, and this is your actual records inserted. And what I'll say now I'll compare asset equals of expected records inserted, actual records inserted. I'll explain you this flow. Okay, that's all. See, now I'll just go to this method, and here I'll print one print statement here. System dot out dot println in add student. Okay. And here in add student service. And here also I'll add print statement to see whether it is going to the real method or not. In add student DA. In add student DA. Okay. In add student DA. Now I'll run this program. You see, I'll run this program, run as JUnit test. Now you see, I got this statement printed, but in add student DAO it is not printed. So what is happening? You see here. See, I'll explain this flow once again. I'll just explain this flow. Okay. Okay. Okay, fine. So now you see here, this is my, now I'll just call this student service. So this is your real method, your real logic student service. This is your student service, okay? So this is your student service. And then I'll have student DAO. Okay, in student DAO, I'll not write this entire logic. I'll just copy because this logic is very long, right? This is your student DAO.java. Right? Now you see here. Now you see. What is happening in this test code? What is happening in this test code? In this MOCKITO test code? What is happening? Now I'm creating a mock object for student DAO. Why? Because this is the danger situation. So I have to avoid calling the real method from the test code. So for that, I create a mock object for this. Okay. So mock object for student DAO, it's a dummy object. Mock means not real object, student DAO. Okay. This is your mock object. Now your student service constructor will take this mock object. Okay. Your student service constructor is taking this student event, but I'm passing the mock object for that inject mocks. That means your student service is a real object. So this is a real object that is getting created. Inject mocks means this mock object is getting injected here. So this is your DAO and this is your real object. This is your real object and this is your service class. Okay. Now, before each means, as I told you, before each test method, this gets initialized. So this is compulsory you have to do. Otherwise, these annotations will not work. So MOCKITO annotation dot init mocks of this, you have to initialize this. Otherwise, these annotations will not work. Okay, fine. Now, when I say test add student, what I define? I want to define this add student method, right? Now, I define the input, some dummy input I'm passing, and I define the expected output. I know that if I pass this record, I'll get one. That means one record got inserted successfully. If I get 0 means zero records got inserted. That means there is a failure while insertion. Fine. Now you know that the DAO object is a mock object, and I know that this logic will not get executed, should not get executed. But instead of this real logic, we have to define the behavior, right? See, for a real exam, you need to define a mock exam, behavior mock exam. Okay, you need to define this behavior. So what is that behavior? What is that behavior? When student DAO dot add student, when I pass student, I should return 1. That means it will return 1 record. That is for sure. I know that. So that is a behavior. So that means when I pass student object record, so if it returns 1 record means it is inserted in the database. Fine. So this is the behavior I'm defining. Now to get the actual output, so this is your behavior. behavior of, we are defining the behavior of for the mock object. We'll define always the behaviors for mock objects because the real logics will not get executed. So we'll define the behavior for DAO class, not for the service class. Service class is a real object, okay? So we'll define the mock object behavior for DAO class. This is for DAO class because it's a mock object. Now we should get the actual output. How will get the actual output now? Now student service is a real object, right? Now when I call add student, it will call this logic. That's why this is printed actually. That's why it is printed. You see the first line, this got printed. You see this got printed actually. So that's why this line got printed. That means if this line got printed means it is going to the actual method. Since this is a real object. Okay, now coming here. Now this is a mock object. Right? This is a mock object. Hello. Now you see, so this is a mock object. You see, this is a mock object. Okay, this is a mock object. This is not a real object. Now from this real, now when I call this, when this is called this behavior we defined already here, right? We defined this behavior here. That means it will not go here. For this, what is the behavior? So this is the behavior. This logic gets executed. So this is not. That's why see, you are not seeing this print statement. So for this, the behavior is, what is the behavior? When, just think in English statement, when student DAO object is, when add student method is called on the student DAO mock object. Okay, what is the return value? The return value is 1. So that means this returns 1. That means actual records inserted is 1. What is your expected count? 1. So this is 1, this is 1. So your test case is passed. So this is how this is working. That means when you call student service.action, it is calling the real method. So that's why it is printing this statement. You see, there is printing this statement. But the main thing is we should avoid calling the DAO method. That is the purpose of MOCKITO, right? Now when the service class is calling this method, now this is your mock object. And we define the mock object behavior here. This is the mock object behavior. When add student method is called on student DAO mock object, what we are returning? We are returning 1. We are telling return 1. So that means this value will be 1 now. So this 1 will be returned. It will not call the real object. So that's why this is not printing. You see, this is not printing. See, in this console, you see, this is not printing. Only your service method is printing. Your DAO, this is not getting printed. That means the call is not going here. It is calling the mock behavior of this. In that way, we are avoiding this logic. And whatever the test data you pass, it will not insert in the database. So that is the thing. Okay, now we'll see for 2 more methods. Whatever we have seen is only for 1 method, test add student. Okay, we have to test 2 more methods, right? This get student by ID, and similarly another method also we have to test, right? Get student by ID we have to test, and get all students also we have to test, right? Everyone understood this concept? Whatever I told, everyone understood? Everyone clear? Okay. Very good. All of you got understood. Yeah. Okay. So Monday. Okay. Tomorrow there is no class. Okay. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow there is no class. Monday, same time, 8:30. I'll explain you the other 2 methods. Tomorrow I'll in the Google Classroom link I will upload all these materials, all these paints, MS paints and whatever the programs I'll upload you in the Google Classroom. Okay. All right then. Mock behavior contains whatever your actual logic is returning the result. It will not contain the actual logic, but it will contain the result of that logic. The behavior will contain the result of that logic. See, think about real exam, mock exam. Your mock exam will behave like your real exam only. But the data of the mock exam, the data of the real exam will be different. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, for your. Yeah, if you understand, if everyone understand, it will be good for me. Yeah, no, that's what mock DAO will not go to the real logic. That's why this statement did not get printed. You see, this statement did not get printed. That means this is not going here. It is calling the behavior of this behavior. Okay, till I tell you, class will be continued till 8:30 p.m. only. Okay, till I tell you, class will be there till 8:30 p.m. I'll tell you. Okay, next week I'll be knowing the clarity. Okay. Yeah, service. Since the service is a real object, it is going to this logic. It is going to this logic and it is printing this statement also. But DAO is not a real object, so it is calling the behavior. Student service is a real object. So if you take inject marks, this is a real object and this is a mock object. You have to remember, this is a mock object. And why we have made student DAO as mock object? Because this is the place where your actual DB logic is. For service, no need. Okay. If you see the diagram, this is the place we need to have mock, where this logic should not get executed by your test code. But this can be there. If you see, there is no database interaction here. How do you know mistakes in business logic means? That's what, see, your business logic, you know that it will return some result, right? That behavior you are defining in MOCKITO. You know that your business logic, finally the execution of business logic will return some result. That result you will define in your MOCKITO behavior, your mock behavior. Okay. All right then. Sure then. So tomorrow we will meet. Okay. I'll upload all the notes. Results. That's what the result of the actual logic you will define in your mock behavior. And when you call the mock object method, it will call your mock behavior, not the real logic. So tomorrow there is no class. So Monday we will meet. Okay. Monday we'll have a class. Okay then. See you then. Monday we'll meet. I will upload you the notes. Tomorrow there is no class. Monday we will meet. Okay. Okay then.